to talk about our second kind of transformation, which is called a rotation. So remember from our last lesson that we talked about the four different kinds of transformations, and we said that a translation is a slide and it moves the figure side to side and up and down, but it maintains its size and it maintains its orientation, that it will be facing the same way and it will be exactly congruent to the original figure. Today we're going to talk about a rotation. So a rotation takes a figure and it moves it around a center point by an angle, a given number of degrees. And so my example for that was that like my elbow could be the center, and then I'm going to take and rotate, let's say 90 degrees. Now my figure is exactly the same size as it was, but it is oriented differently. It is facing a different direction than it used to. So to do a rotation, we could use a protractor to measure the angle. Now, I looked around my house a little bit and I couldn't find one here, so maybe you don't have a protractor at your house either, and that's okay. We can do it without. We'll just be able to kind of approximate our angles, but if you have a protractor, you could use that to actually measure the angles, and we're going to take a point or a figure and we're going to move it a given number of degrees around a given center. So the things that we need are a center, we need a point, and we need a given number of degrees. How far are we going to turn it? Angles are measured in the counterclockwise direction. Okay, so we always want to think about measuring in the counterclockwise direction when we talk about angles. That's for a positive. If we want to go clockwise, then we're going to say that it is a negative angle measurement. So angles measured positively are going to go counterclockwise. Angles measured negatively are going to go clockwise. To explain this, honestly, rotations I think are the most difficult to draw accurately. So I'm not going to try to draw them. I'm actually just going to take you to Khan Academy and show you exactly what the problems are going to look like and how I would work through the problems. So there's a chance that I might actually be doing some of your homework problems now, right? So there's a problem set and it randomizes it. So you may or may not get these same exact problems when you go to do your homework. So point P is going to be rotated about the origin. So the origin is going to be our center point, and it says by 60 degrees. And we want to know which one of these points is going to be the image or the end answer. And so then it's going to be multiple choice A, B, C, or D that we can choose which one. Now, one other thing to note here, it says it preserves the distance. Okay, so it has to be the same distance away from the center as the image and the pre-image. So again, if I think about my elbow, however far away my fist is from my elbow, when I do my rotation, it's still the same distance away. That distance didn't change. Okay, so that's one thing we can look for in these as well, as how far away from that center point is the end answer. Now, I think it's best or easiest to measure if I use the drawing tool here, and I'm not great with it, but I'm going to connect the center to the point. And then what I want to do is figure out which one of these points is 60 degrees away from P. Now remember, positive angles are measured in a counterclockwise direction. So I'm thinking about going this way is my counterclockwise direction. So if I'm going 60, I know it's going to be one of these 2 points over here because I'm heading this way, and 60 degrees is not that big of an angle. So then I'll check and see, maybe it's C. If I connect C, does that angle look like it could be about 60 degrees? It looks reasonable, like that could be about 60 degrees. And this is where if you had a protractor, you could actually lay your protractor right on the screen and see, is that angle actually a 60-degree measurement? And if you're not sure and you're like, I don't know, that looks like it could be smaller, then I could go ahead and erase that out of there and say, well, maybe it's angle D. We'll try angle D if I look at that. Well, now does that angle look like 60 degrees? That angle looks almost more like 90 to me. And now again, I'm using like the the naughty words of geometry, right? Looks like, ooh, that's dangerous. So I don't know that that is perfectly 90 degrees, but it does look more than 60. And on these, they are done to scale. So we can go with how it appears to be. And again, if you have that protractor, you could actually make the measurement and know for sure. But I don't have one. So I'm going to go with that looks like a 60-degree angle. So I'm going to choose answer choice C. And I got that right. So now I can go on, oh, I was going to say to the next problem, but then it just completely closed. So let's see if I can get a new problem here. Okay, so this one doesn't have our grid on it. So the last one was on the XY axis. This one doesn't have the grid line on it. So, whoa, the whole thing like started dragging there. Weird. Okay, this is really what I wanted to do. Okay, so, it doesn't matter whether it has the X and Y axis, the grid lines or not. So in this problem, we're going to take point Q. So I'm going to connect point Q to the center. And we're going to go 75 degrees, positive 75. So that means we're going counterclockwise direction here. Counterclockwise direction. Which one of these points appears that it is 75 degrees? Well, if I'm going in the counterclockwise direction, I want to think of how far would 75 degrees be? Well, 75 is smaller than 90, right? So I'm looking for something that's smaller than 90 degrees in the counterclockwise direction. That looks like it's probably going to be point D. You know, that was a terrible connection. I'm not very good with drawing with the little mouse thing, but that looks pretty good there. And if I would try to connect all the way to C, well, that's an obtuse angle. That's bigger than 75. So this one looks like D. It looks... this problem seems a little bit maybe easier than the last one because the points are so spaced out. In the last one, they were a little bit closer to each other. And then now this one, point P is rotated about the origin. So our center is our origin. So I'm going to connect point P to the center here. And now in this one, it says we want to go negative 15 degrees. Negative. So now negative angles, that's going to go clockwise. So now if I'm going clockwise, well, that's going to be point C or D. Those actually look like they lie on the same line. If I try to connect to the center here, point C and D, those are actually on the same line. So they're both 15 degrees away. So here, the important fact is to remember that when we do that rotation, the length of my arm doesn't change. My fist stays just as far away from my elbow as it used to. So we need a point that is just as far away as point P. C is closer into the origin. So in this one, our answer is going to be choice D. Okay, so that's how this set goes. And then you're going to have one other set here. And it says that triangle ABC with the primes is the image. That means the end, okay? The image means the end. So this one with the primes, that's the image, that's the end. So the pink is the result, the after of ABC. This is the pre-image. So this is our before, the blue is the before, the pink is the after. And what we have to do is figure out how far did they rotate this? So our answer choices are here. We've got some positives, some negatives, and either 120 or 165. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one of the letters. It does not matter which letter you choose. So I'll choose letter A. It doesn't matter which letter you choose. And I'm going to connect both A and A prime to the center. That would be the angle. I'm taking A to A prime because remember, blue is the beginning and the primes, the pink one, is the end. So that means I'm going in a counterclockwise direction. So counterclockwise is going to be a positive angle. So of my answer choices, I can now eliminate both of these negative ones. It's not that. It's not going to be those negative ones. Now I need to decide, is it positive 120 or is it positive 165? Well, one angle that is pretty easy to measure is a straight line angle. So if we went a straight line angle, that would be 180. It'd be here. 165 is not that far off from 180, and this is pretty far off from 180. It's actually looks like maybe even closer to like, this would be 90, right? 120 to 90, that's pretty close. So I think this one is going to be 120 degrees. And this is where if you had a protractor, you could lay that protractor on the screen and actually measure that angle. But I'm going to go with 120 here. Okay, and they're not going to be like super tricky with you on this. They're not going to give you options of like 120 and 125, right? They're going to be decently different so that even without a protractor, you can kind of eyeball measure the angles by comparing them to 180s or 90s. Okay, so on this one, again, you can connect any point. Make sure you choose the same letter. So don't connect like an A to a C. That wouldn't make any sense. But I'm going to connect point C just because that's the closest, and anything else I'm going to have to kind of trace through the figure, and that's just going to make my drawing more confusing. So I'm going to connect point C. Ooh, that wasn't a good start. Let's try again. Okay, so I'm going to connect point C to C prime, and again it says the primes are the image, so that pink one is the image, that's the end, the blue is the beginning. So if I'm starting at the blue one and going to the pink one, then that means I'm going in the counterclockwise direction. That means I'm going in the positive direction. So I can eliminate these two negative options because that's not it. I'm going in the positive direction here. Then my choices are 75 or 105. So we want to say, how big is this angle? Is it 75 or is it 105? Well, what's different about 75 and 105? 75 is an acute angle, smaller than 90. 105 is an obtuse angle, bigger than 90. So, does it appear that this angle is acute or obtuse? It looks pretty close to right, but a little bit bigger than right. And I don't have a protractor, but if you do have something that even has a square edge, like a sheet of paper has a 90-degree corner on it, right? So you could just take that like index card or something like that and lay it up there and say, is that bigger or smaller than a 90-degree angle that way? It looks bigger than 90 to me. So I'm going to say this is 105 in the positive direction. And I was right. Okay. So I'll do one. I really wanted there to be a negative one, but this one is another positive one. Let's see. Okay, so it is what it is. I'm gonna connect, I'm gonna choose point B this time, just it looks like it's kind of the closest to the origin. And once again, the primes are the image, so that's the end. Blue is the beginning, so beginning to end means I'm going in the counterclockwise direction, which means I do have another positive answer here. So I can eliminate the negatives. And then my options are 30 or 60. So does this angle look like it is closer to 30 degrees or closer to 60 degrees? You could use a protractor. I think it looks closer to 60 degrees. So I'm going to choose the 60 degree. We'll see. Well, this one looks complicated, right? Because they're like overlapping each other. So I'm going to choose choose letter A to connect to. You can choose any letter you want. I'm going to choose A. Just looks like I don't have to draw through the figure as much. Like if I chose C, that's pretty far away. I'd have to draw through the figure. So I'm going to choose point A and connect the 2 point A's together there. Now the primes are the image. That means the pink is the end. So it's going from the blue to the pink. So once again, this one is counterclockwise. So this is going to be another positive angle. Is it positive 30 or positive 90? That definitely does not look like a 90-degree angle, so I'm going to go with positive 30. Okay. So none of mine were negatives, but The only difference with negative would be that as I would look from blue to pink, that I would be going clockwise to get from the blue to the pink. But it didn't give me any of those. It might give some to you though, because it's random. So you might end up with some negative angles as well, but that would be that we're going in the clockwise direction. Okay, so that's how you're going to do your homework on these rotations, and let me know what questions you have. Rotations, again, like I said before, I do think they are the most difficult of the 4 types of transformations that we're going to talk about, at least the most difficult to draw for sure. So that's why I didn't try to draw anything out by hand and just rather use these examples. So let me know what questions you have and how I can help you out. All right, talk to you later.